War is coming to the Arctic Circle, something we've been covering on the show for a few years. The play for Greenland, of course, all part of this larger plan. Russia, China, the U.S., all making plays for the most important trade route in the world right now. Of course, we've been telling you for years about this. The United States had one ice cutter. So Russia, China had already laid claim to a vast portion of all of this. Now the United States wants in on this. Trump is now calling for a $1.5 trillion military spending. He mentioned this last night, citing dangerous times. And here is his tweet about it. After long and difficult negotiations with senators, congressmen, secretaries, and other political representatives, I've determined that for the good of our country, especially in these very troubled and dangerous times, our military budget for the year 2027 should not be $1 trillion, but rather $1.5 trillion. Of course, on that news, Lockheed Martin's stock exploded. All of the military industrial complex stocks exploded. But then he also said, hey, all of you CEOs of these military industrial contracts companies like Boeing and all should not be getting $25 million a year. It needs to be capped at $5 million. That's it. $5 million. So we'll see if that holds. Glenn Greenwald posted this. He said, when the Pentagon fails its audit for the 7th consecutive year, the DoD simply can't account for the hundreds of billions of dollars flying around like Zelensky. The only rational solution is to increase its budget from $850 billion to $1 trillion, then to $1.5 trillion. He makes a good point. Tucker Carlson makes the point that war is coming, and maybe Trump knows something that we don't, but clearly something is happening.
The president announced that he is hiking the Pentagon budget from $1 trillion to $1.5 trillion. Just announced that. Why? Well, it's hard to know without asking him. He'll explain. But big picture, obviously, that's the kind of budget that a country that anticipates a global or regional war has for its military. There's no other reason to do that. That's not a peacekeeping budget. That's a war budget, a big war budget. So I think it's fair to expect, and all the signs suggest, that we're going to have a big war soon. A big war soon. I think everyone expects that to happen. Hope it doesn't happen, but obviously we're moving in that direction, toward a world war. Sorry. So how do you position yourself for that? Well, you look at a map and you ask the most basic questions. What areas do I want to control? Where are the trade routes? Who's got the resources?
Exactly. Well, one thing is for certain, war is coming. How it will all play out, we don't exactly know. We do know that a large-scale attack against Iran is likely to happen before the end of the year. Before the end of the month, likely on a Friday into Saturday morning, just like it did last time. Israelis will wake up at 3 in the morning to learn that their country has gone to war with Iran. That's one piece of it. What's going to happen in the Arctic Circle? That's another big piece of it. Europe, of course, is certainly gearing up for war. So all of this to say is something big is happening. Ben Freeman is the author of The $1 Trillion War Machine, How Runaway Military Spending Drives America into Foreign Wars and Bankrupts Us Here at Home. Ben, welcome to the show. Great to see you. So, the president says this budget is affordable because of the income that is really going to be generated abroad. Not here at home, like it's largely maybe from the pillaging of oil resources in Venezuela and kind of other places. He says this. I mean, and to me, the implication seems to be that the military is like paying for itself. Because they'll steal it? By conquering other economies and sort of like subjugating them. I mean, it sounds like the Roman Empire, no?
I live in Florida and we call that piracy. It hasn't worked historically, and it's not going to work that way now. I mean, what we're seeing here with Venezuela, that's what it is at the end of the day. The president's justification for a foreign war is effectively that we're going to take their leader, we're going to run the country so we can steal their stuff. That just historically hasn't worked for us. It hasn't worked for a lot of countries that have tried that, and it's not going to work for Venezuela. And into this $1.5 trillion budget that he's talking about, I think it's important, and no disrespect to Tucker on this, but I think it's important to put that $500 billion in perspective. That's more than any country on the planet's military budget. That's more than China, Russia, and Iran spend on their militaries combined. So if we are spending $500 billion more to prepare for war, I think at the very least we're spending way too much on it.
You know, I'm a huge fan of the bearskin hoodie, and smart people are grabbing theirs right now because when it's already freezing here in the Rocky Mountains, we're about to get a whole bunch of snow at the end of the week. It's about damn time. It's been one of the warmest winters we've had, but now we're about to get 12 degrees, lots of snow, and I absolutely love my bearskin hoodie. I wear it every day when I'm walking the dog, just doing yard work, being outside. I got one for my neighbors as well.
I just got one. They had buy two, get one free. And I got 3 of them and the raincoat, and they are the best made hoodie I have ever used, honestly.
That's David talking. I mean, they are fantastic. And my neighbor, I got one for him as well. And he has a nice little fire pit outside, and he's like, I wear this thing all the time. It is really one of the best hoodies you can buy. These hoodies are built for serious cold weather. It's got 340 GSM of bearskin fleece, 10 pockets, a muscular fit, even zips into that heavy storm rain jacket that David was just talking about. So you get into full winter waterproof armor, whether you're into hiking, hunting, traveling, or just you hate being cold. This is the last hoodie that you'll ever need. And you'll get free U.S. shipping, fast delivery, and you're finally, kitted out properly for winter. That's a win-win. So do yourself a favor right now. You get 60% off the bearskin hoodie today by going to Redacted, by texting the word Redacted. Just text that word Redacted to 36912. That's 36912. You'll get a link sent straight to your phone. You can check it out if you're busy right now. By the way, when you're shopping with bearskin, you're not just getting killer gear, you're also supporting the Fallen Outdoors and the Hope for the Warriors Veterans Program. So don't wait till you're freezing to realize that your hoodie sucks. Get a bearskin now while it's 60% off. Text the word Redacted to 36912. 36912. Text that word Redacted.
I believe you make an important distinction because China's military budget is about a third of what ours is, but I believe they have, is it double or triple the personnel, the service members?
They have over triple the personnel that we do. But I think, talk to any Navy SEAL here, talk to any Army Green Beret member, there's quantity and there's quality. Nobody in the world, right, I don't think, believes that the Chinese military is more capable than the U.S. military. I don't think China believes that.
Right.
And so the idea that even, just because they have 3 times the number of troops, that doesn't mean a thing. The U.S. military is already by far the best and the most powerful military on the planet, period.
But this budget is not to pay them better because they're the best. This budget is to buy more weaponry, right? It's not to boost the military or to better compensate them. Otherwise, that would be a different thing altogether.
I mean, I guess, what is it for? Like, why throw another $500 billion into it? Like, what is it for, to Natalie's point?
That's a great question. We don't know. In typical Trump style, we're seeing an idea thrown out on Truth Social, and then the rest of us sort of left reeling to figure out what that actually means in practice. We haven't gotten a lot of details, really any details about what that means. But we can look back sort of recent history to get a sense of where that money might go. And as we document in the $1 trillion war machine, right now in today's military, Natalie, you're totally right. Most of the money in the military budget isn't going to military members. It's not going to veterans. It's not going to military families. More than half of the defense budget right now goes to Pentagon contractors, about 54% of it. So, to your point there, Clayton, about Lockheed stock soaring, that's where this money is going. This money is going to the Lockheed Martins, General Dynamics, Northrop Grumman. So there's no surprise to me whatsoever that when this, $500 billion treasure chest is thrown out there, no surprise whatsoever that the defense stock started soaring. Because what this means is it's a big payday for them at the end of the day.
I think I have it in my notes. It's between 2 and 4% was the pay increase for military service members. So that does not account for another $500 billion by any stretch.
No stretch of the imagination whatsoever. And if you look at our current $1 trillion budget too, and you think about what that does for military families, Right now, there's a stunning fact that 1 in 4 military families is facing food insecurity. 1 in 4. And this is at the same time, we have $1 trillion Pentagon budget. And as Clayton mentioned, some of these executives at Pentagon contractors are getting paid 10, 20. We documented a guy making $80 million a year. And most of the revenue for these companies is coming from the U.S. government, which yet it can't feed military families enough to keep food on the table for their families. I mean, and so when you're talking about adding $500 billion to that, it's just a tragedy what we're doing already with wasteful spending in the military. This is only going to put gasoline on that fire.
I just don't understand. Amen past the ammo in our chat room says 50-year mortgages and another 250 years at war. I don't think so. I mean, I just don't see. To me, if you read like Jared Diamond's Collapse, I mean, or you study the Roman Empire and you're gobbling up these other proxies and taking over different economies, and you're continuing to just feed the military industrial complex, the snake eating its own tail, and you're really just lining the pockets of, Lockheed Martin and Boeing and Honeywell and all of these other defense contractors. You're forcing us into wars in order to justify the cost of this, right? So these perpetual wars will never end.
100%. Clayton, I cannot agree more. This system, when you have a military industrial complex, when you have $1 trillion budget, forget about a $1.5 trillion budget. When you have that much money on the line, you have to have wars to justify it.
Right.
If you do not have wars, if the world doesn't look scary, then people like the folks in your chat, they start to ask questions, and they start to ask things like, well, instead of that $500 billion going to fight wars, well, what if that helped me with the housing market? What if that helped with healthcare? I have a 1-year-old and a 3-year-old, so I'm we're spending just a stupid amount of money on childcare. It's like, what if we got some help for that? If the world doesn't look scary, then you start asking those tough questions. People start having those trade-offs. So they have to sell us a scary world.
I was going to say, General Wesley Clark said, if you're a hammer, every problem has to look like a nail.
Exactly right.
Right. Something else Tucker said, in addition to what we played there, was about our relationship with Russia. He said, under no circumstances would we be able to win whatever boondoggle it is we're trying to win without the support of Russia. What if we became an ally of Russia and tried to stop whatever madness is currently going on? And he said that's arguably the only way that we would survive this. I'm not asking you to be a military strategist here, but what do you think about that?
I would frankly love if we could have more cordial, better diplomatic relations with Russia. For too long, the temperature in the room when it comes to U.S.-Russia relations has just been nothing but hostile. And, I honestly thought it was a breath of fresh air when Trump came in and said, I'm going to talk to Putin. We're going to have open dialogue. There's no reason, there's no justification for the U.S. to look at Russia as being a natural enemy. It's the old song, why can't we be friends? And we can't here. I think, we can resolve the Ukraine conflict. We can help to resolve other conflicts together. There's no reason the U.S. should not have better diplomatic engagement with Russia. So, I think on that point, I'm definitely in agreement with Tucker.
I want to just point out one more thing that sort of supports this, because this afternoon, the Senate voted to limit the actions that the president can take in Venezuela. That's going to continue. And he's furious. He posted this online. It was basically, how dare you, saying, look, every president and Department of Justice before me have determined that the War Powers Act is unconstitutional. He's telling us, I'm going to do whatever the heck I want. These people are traitors for thinking that I shouldn't. I mean, the irony is, like you just said, when he was a candidate, he criticized the presidents before him who went around the War Powers Act and waged endless wars. Now he's defending that. I don't see that as anything else as him signaling to us, I'm going to do whatever the heck I want. Your little, votes in the Senate be damned. I can see it. It pisses me off. I'm not stopping. How do you read that?
Right. Thank you so much for bringing that up, Natalie. And I'll tell you, I'm a shameless plug, but we opened this book, The $1 Trillion War Machine, with a quote from candidate Donald Trump on the campaign trail, just ripping war profiteers a new one. He talks about them making $2 million. They want to go to war because rockets cost $2 million. Bombs cost this, bombs cost that. Whenever he was going around the country, a lot of people voted for him because they thought he would keep us out of wars. And so that's why when we see this rhetoric coming from him now, it's the opposite of what he was saying on the campaign trail. And we talk about this on the book. And it's not unique to Donald Trump. Every president we've had, they campaign on peace, they become president, and they go to war. And it's not a partisan issue either. Go back to President Obama. President Obama is given the Nobel Peace Prize, and then he oversees the surge in Iraq and Afghanistan, the two highest years of military spending that we had prior to this one since World War II. So regardless of what party it is, they're going to tell you one thing on the campaign trail. When they get into office, they suddenly become war hawks. Trump is just the latest example of it.
Ugh.
Yeah. They're told something as soon as they get in there. Ben, it's so great to have you here on the show. Check it out. Again, hold up the name of the book so people can go and read it. I think this is valuable. The $1 Trillion War Machine. It's right there. Go grab it. It's available in hardback. You can grab it on Kindle as well if you want the digital version. And I think you also have an audiobook version, don't you? Or you work?
It's everywhere. Everywhere books are sold. Grab your copy now.
Ben, great to see you. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, guys. Take care.